This is really exciting. Um, she's laughing, I can hear.
Hello.
I knew, I got the sense that that was the Daily Empress. And as Cassidy said, we're exploring art versus art. So this is going to be another awesome talk for our tarot readers. Oh, yep, there we go. You're on.
Yay. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Hi, everyone. So in this talk, can you see that bigger now? Okay, so I'm going to be talking about tarot arts. And I go by Daily Empress Tarot. And this is my Empress drawing. I felt she needed a cat, so added that to it. So in this talk, the first half of the talk, I'm going to be showing you some of my tarot artwork. And then in the second half of the talk, I'll be comparing the artwork on different moon cards from some different tarot decks. All right, so this first drawing I have a few of these where I just wanted to see how all the pip cards looked, together. So here I put all the cups pip cards together. I just thought in one picture, just to get an idea of the whole suit and the feel of it. Like as if you went to a party with the cups cards, And I felt kind of helpful to compare them. Like, for example, I don't know if you can see them all or not. It's a very busy picture, but on the lower left-hand side, you can see the Two of Cups with the children. And then right next to them, I put the Two of Cups to show, the similarities there, but also the differences, the Six of Cups sharing as like children versus the sharing as adults or meeting as adults, and how that compares. And then also, if you, on the right-hand side, where the Four of Cups and below him, the Nine of Cups man, it's again, a younger, older, and they both have their arms crossed. But of course, the Four of Cups, he's just dissatisfied with his cups. Whereas the Nine of Cups beneath him, he's, smug and happy because he has all his cups. And then another similarity I noticed that stuck out is like the Five of Cups on the right-hand side versus the Seven of Cups all the way to the left. They're dark figures with their back to us. You can't see their face, and they're both like overwhelmed emotionally. That's the 5 and 7 sort of challenging numbers. Yeah, so these are the Cups cards. And then next, very different picture, is the Wands suits. So again, the 2 through 10 of the Wands. And again, it's much more energetic as you expect, because the Wands are fire. So it's competitive, it's pushing your energy out. And you can see that on the left-hand side. You have the Seven of Wands and the Five of Wands. Again, difficult number, it's challenging, and you see they're all, hitting each other with the sticks, the wands. So in this very different feel, comparing this picture to this picture, and you see how in this one, it's not so friendly and joyful, but more getting things done, working, and battling things out. There is a little happiness of the Four of Wands, but it seems like more of a show rather than, the emotions of the cups. Yeah, so that's the Wands. And the last one I did, ba-boom, the Swords. So of course the Swords, definitely not happy like the cups. And again, you see the Five of Swords in the front. I sort of mixed that together with the 10 of Swords there, the figures. And the Seven of Swords all the way in the back. You can see him sneaking away. And I noticed with these 5 and 7, this seemed to stick out to me, these two cards, because they're both holding on to their swords, like holding on to their ideas or taking someone's ideas away from them, like someone who may plagiarize, or that kind of idea I felt stood out to me. And I was surprised because the Swords card is air, communication, thinking. But when I looked at all of the figures in one picture like this, it seemed quieter than I would expect. But then I realized that Swords, is about thinking, what's going on in your minds, your logical mind, your rational mind. So that's why I feel this is quieter. It's more personal. How you're thinking, what you're thinking about. Then you can see the 9 swords on the left and the 4 swords on the right. They're both laying down, but of course the 9 of swords on the left is not happy to be laying down or can't fall asleep, whereas the 4 of swords on the right is resting peacefully, but that may be because he's dead. So swords is a very unpleasant suit compared to the others, as you can see. So yeah, I just did this for fun, just to see them all in one place. I thought it was interesting. Okay, and then again for fun, I decided to make tarot cards. On the left is Prince Harry, portrayed by the Fool. And on the right is Meghan Markle as the Queen of Wands, because she is a Leo fire sign. So just did the 2 of them for some fun here. And then, of course, Princess Diana. I put her as the Queen of Cups. It may not look exactly like her. I tried to make it look like her. Okay, in this card, I did a world card for, I don't know if, how many people are familiar with the Nexium trial. It was very highly publicized about a year ago. And Allison Mack was the actress. She was on a show called Smallville. And it was during this trial when she was on the news. I just felt this portrayed her because she's being followed by the reporters and paparazzi, and she seemed to enjoy the attention. So I thought, this kind of fits for a world card. Okay, so the next few cards, I did a drawing of some major arcana, and I used an app called Pixaloop, which animates some parts of the drawing. You can make parts of your drawing move, or you can add moving objects to it. So in this case, I did the Hermit, and I really focused on my cards with the lighting. I wanted him, the polarity to be on him, dark on one side, light on the other. But of course, his lamp being the focal point of the drawing. And then next, I did the High Priestess. And I kind of wanted to make this look like an old card, like an old deck that you just discovered buried away somewhere and just pulled it out again. And here again with Pixaloop, I animated her skirts to look sort of like a waterfall or water flowing. She is a very watery card, as you all know. So there's the High Priestess. And then I did the Magician. Now, of course, there's not much lighting in his, but I decided to make him light up. I mean, it's his aura, his personal power, how he manifests his reality here. So I made him a little light glowing aura around him. And then last but not least, I did the sun card. So of course, had the sun radiating on the little boy. And again, I did a kind of white on the lighting on him, making it showing that he's very light on one side and darkly shadowed on the other, just to show the power of the light on him. Yeah, so those are the animated cards that I did. All right, so now we're going to look at the moon card. So from the pictorial key to the tarot, Arthur Waite writes that the distinction between this card and some of the conventional types is that the moon is increasing on what is called the side of mercy, to the right of the observer. It has 16 chief and 16 secondary rays. The card represents life of the imagination apart from life of the spirits. The path between the towers is the issue into the unknown. The dog and the wolf are the fears of the natural mind in the presence of that place of exit, when there is only reflected light to guide it. The last reference is a key to another form of symbolism. The intellectual light is a reflection, and beyond it is the unknown mystery, which it cannot show forth. It illuminates our animal nature, types of which are represented below: the dog, the wolf, and that which comes up out of the deeps, the nameless and hideous tendency which is lower than the savage beasts. It strives to attain manifestation, symbolized by crawling from the abyss of water to the land. But as a rule, it sinks back whence it came. The face of the mind directs a calm gaze upon the unrest below. The dew of thought falls, and the message is, Peace, be still, and it may be that there shall come a calm upon the animal nature, while the abyss beneath shall cease from giving up a form. So I was a little surprised when I read this definition, when he's talking about this thing that's more hideous than a savage beast, referring, I think, to the lobster or the crab, because I always love lobster, it's delicious. So I was like, wow, it's actually supposed to be this hideous thing, So that's a little surprising. But anyways, this is the card I want to look at, as well as others, to study the art versus art. Okay, so in art versus art, we're looking at the image and just focusing on what's going on in the image. And you're asking yourself, what is this image telling me? What's happening in the picture, and what is the focal point? So the image is an allegory, a story, play, picture, in which each character or event is a symbol representing an idea or a quality, such as truth, evil, death, etc., and the use of such symbols. And this is an exercise I learned in Dusty White School, easytarotlessons.com. All right, so just looking at the picture, using art versus, just studying the picture of what is going on here. What do you think's going on? What is the scenario here? What is the story going on here? So that would depend on your focal point. So especially doing a reading, what stands out to you? What grabs your attention the most? So for example, if your focal point is the moon, and you're using the Waite Smith version on the right, you see the moon's face is looking down towards the dogs, towards the earth. And you might say that in a reading, perhaps that the person is going to be watching or having to watch over a situation where some unruly animals or unruly people, or a tense situation where there's a lot of arguing and people acting out and saying things that are out of the norm, just it's overly emotional. So this would show, if the moon is the focal point, you might say, well, look out, if you're going babysitting somewhere, if a client asks, I'm going to babysit someone's kids, how will it go? If your focal point's the moon stands out, you could look down and say, well, one's going to be a dog, the other's a wolf, right? One's going to be somewhat calm, but the other one's going to be totally out of control, and the two of them together are just going to ping off each other, and it'll be very stressful. So look out, be prepared, Yeah, and that's one way of looking at it. Now, if the focal point were, say, what stood out to you was the dog more, then you might say, well, you're going to have some stress. You're not going to be able to know exactly what to do in a situation because it's unknown to you. It's something you've never dealt with. And then you're going to have somebody like the wolf bothering you and getting you more, confused and causing more stress. So it might be very stressful for you. And don't bother trying to get help from the neighbor. Like the wolf could be like the neighbor to the dog. Don't even bother trying to ask the neighbor, because that will just make things worse, and the both of you will both be, getting all stressed out and not know what to do with the situation. So that's just a couple of ideas of where the focal point is and how you would interpret the story of what's going on. And of course, there are many, many ways you could interpret the experience of what's going on. Now, comparing the Waite Smith on the right moon to the Tarot Illuminati on the left, you see there's the cards are very similar, but there are a couple of distinct differences. And the first one is the moon, where in the Tarot Illuminati, the face on the moon is not looking down, it's looking up. So the face is not watching the dogs, it's looking away. So in that case, if somebody were to ask, how is it going to be if I babysit my friends, children, you would see the moon looking up in a way like, well, the two kids, or one of the two children, because there's only one dog, the wolf is howling, but the dog is quiet on the tarot card, on the Illuminati card. and the moon face looking up. So the moon is the focus. You may say something like, well, one of the children may act up a little bit, but you're not going to pay them much mind. You'll just go back to watching Netflix, or, you know, looking at your cell phone and ignoring it. And because you'll know that the other good child, the dog over there, is more well behaved, will be watching the unruly one and keeping an eye on him for you. So that will relieve you of having to constantly be watching them every second. So it seems like a slightly different interpretation because the face of the moon is different, the artwork is different. So this is like an example of how the artwork can change the meaning of the card and change the story and how you interpret it. Even though it's like a very small difference in the artwork, it can make a big difference in the interpretation, or a significant difference anyways. And the next two cards, moon cards, again, these are also moon cards, and this is the Light Seers Tarot versus the Tarot de Saint Croix. And on the left, of course, you have a woman in the water, and she's, along with you on top, you have two, looks like two dogs. It could be two wolves. It can't be sure. They're so small. It's hard to tell. And with a big full moon. And then you have the woman in the water. It looks like she is very calm, very quiet. You don't know if she's awake or not. She might not be. She doesn't look like she's struggling, but she also doesn't look like she's swimming. She's just sort of laying there. And so this could be somebody just taking a long, relaxing bath, or this could be somebody who is, you know, not conscious, or not possibly, you know, there, not, you know, not alive or something. She could be, looks like she might be drowning or something. I don't know. However it feels to you when you look at this card in a reading, it could just be she's lost in confusion and has no idea what to do and is just, you know, numb. So, versus the, now it's interesting because the card on the right, Tarot de Saint Croix, you have a very similar idea of a woman in deep water, but it's very different because the woman on the right, she is diving. She's almost doing a perfect Olympic dive into the water, and she appears to be reaching for the moon, as if she saw the reflection of the moon in the water, and it appears like she may be diving in to try to grab it. So this would be a totally different feeling of what's going on, where, you know, the woman on the left seems sort of overwhelmed and feeling helpless and maybe not conscious of what's going on, confused. The woman on the right knows what she's doing. She's diving for that moon, but she's going in a totally wrong direction, right? She's going after a mirage, a reflection. So maybe she's doing everything perfectly. She's diving perfectly. She knows how to swim. She's like going for it, but she's going in the opposite direction of what she needs if she's trying to go for that moon. So yeah, it's you know, a little bit of difference in the artwork and how the women are portrayed can make a big difference in how you interpret the situation in a reading. For example, if one example is if somebody were to ask you, say, I need to pick a specialty. I want to go to the Olympics, and either I can become a freestyle swimmer or I can become a diver. You know, which one should I go for to compete in? I'm good at swimming, but I'm also good at diving. And if you got the card on the right, you would probably say, yeah, go for the diving. I think you'll be very good at diving. But if you look at the card on the left, you might say, well, you know, maybe another sport besides swimming it might be more suitable or more pleasurable for you. Because it looks like you might feel overwhelmed by all the practice time that's needed. Yeah, so it's two very different answers, and these are both moon cards, but because of the artwork, you know, you see things very differently. They can be interpreted very differently. And lastly, I'm looking at the Witch's Tarot versus the Everyday Witch Tarot. And here you have in these cards the idea of looking for something in the moonlight and sort of trying to look for answers. And yeah, again, a very different feel for the moon cards. Here you have a woman on the left, and she's looking as if she's looking for something. She's holding up a light, and behind her you see a couple of wolves, but instead of them howling, they're just sort of watching, and you're not sure, are those wolves with her or are they watching her? Is she in danger and she doesn't know it because she can't see where she's going? You know, it's nighttime. So there's a little bit of danger possibly there. Whereas the moon on the right, you see, you know, the witch flying away, perhaps going somewhere, looking for something, possibly looking for her cat, who is at the bottom of the card. And interesting, you have the water again, and you have the cat looking into the water and seeing itself in a reflection as a big panther, right? So seeing things that, because of the reflected light, not seeing things as they really are, but as you imagine them to be, not seeing things accurately or realistically. So depending on what your focal point is, whether you're the witch on the broom looking for something, maybe driving off and forgetting something like her cat, if that's the witch is the focal point. Otherwise, on the right hand card, if the cat is the focal point, you might say, well, you're going to think that, you know, you're going to be more intimidating than you really are, or you may be overestimating how good looking you are. You know, he's looking in the reflection, he sees a big good looking cat, but really he's a little scrawny cat. So it might be this idea of maybe overestimating how your image comes across or something, or not seeing yourself clearly, or whatever, you know, how it pertains to whatever the question may be. Yeah, so that is what I have for you today. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye bye.